Hi everyone. Hello. Hi and good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Malaysia. Good evening to my friends. We've just gone live. We're just getting there. We're going to wait for friends and fans to get into the frame, find my page, find the little kind of, the live box that pops up on our chat, get into it, get warm, get comfortable with your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, or a glass of wine, or a can of beer, whatever makes you feel comfortable on a Sunday. I have such a special guest today who I've been dying to meet when, in Malaysia. And again, as I said, the lockdown stories are becoming so common now that I'm meeting most of my, my favorite people of Malaysia online, but so be it. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Heart with Ethel Da Costa. It's a beautiful first day of the month, which is August 1st. We have a small little custom back home in Goa, passed down from my grandmom to my mum, and my mum passed it on to me, and I pass it on to mine. So on the 1st of August, what my grandmom used to do is the first thing in the morning, give us a pinch of sugar, into our mouth. And she would say in Portuguese, agush disgust, which meant warding off the evil eye for the month of August, because she thought it was a very special month. And that's exactly what I did today. So I do not have sugar. I, in fact, went and scooped a spoon of jam, pineapple jam. And I said, so be it. So here we are today on the 1st of August, on yet another episode on a very, very interesting session of Heart to Heart with a very special gentleman from Malaysia, very well known, very popular. I would like to introduce to all my friends who are coming online. Let me introduce you to Dato David Gurupatham, called to the bar at the Honourable Society of Middle Temple, London, a certified mediator, an accomplished barrister, former chair of legal aid at the Selangor Bar Committee and Malaysian Bar Council Legal Aid Committee. He is the co-founder of Industries United Malaysia, which is a coalition of 115 trade and business associations and chambers of commerce, representing 3.3 million businesses in Malaysia to lobby with the government to save local livelihoods. And I've been reading the news, and Dato David is doing some fantastic work with his team on the Industries United front, which I think is a need of the hour right now, for Malaysia, because the pandemic has taken off livelihoods, has shut down businesses, throughout the country. A lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, are suffering, are really going through a bad time. And I think the work that Industries United has been doing ever since it's launched a few months back has been quite phenomenal. I felt, as a journalist, to watching what all is happening. So kudos to Dato David on that. Dato David also drives a very interesting paid forward charity movement called Project Satu Hati. It's a charity give back to marginalized communities, from what I've been reading as well and what I've been seeing. So I'm really, I'm full of admiration for this gentleman, because I think what he represents is dynamism, is a sense of very enthusiastic drive and youthfulness that is so much required today. Not only from Malaysia, but I think in the global leaders and global leadership and what they represent. So let me bring Dato David right on to our live format and live chat, because I think he's had a busy Sunday. He's just rushed in and got himself right there on time, and I am so appreciative for the time that he's given me. So let me just bring him online. Dato David, there you are. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Such a pleasure to have you. Such a pleasure to have you on my Heart to Heart with Ethel Da Costa. I know that you've actually, kind of juggled a couple of things today to make this happen. So thank you. Terima kasih for making this happen.
I've been so excited about your show. the stiletto
Yeah.
foodie, herself.
Yeah, so the selective foodie, which happens every Friday, is just it's just so much fun, and the kind of buzz it's generating between different, so different audiences. So I have, India, Malaysia, I have Dubai, I have Bangladesh, all kind of just coming in to witness the show, and the heart-to-heart format has interested my media colleagues in India. And so they even kind of reported on it, saying, "Oh, Ethel is in Malaysia, apparently in lockdown, but it doesn't look to be locked down because she's just, having a blast doing what she loves doing." So thank you for making the time today.
Pleasure.
So we are going to, get right into a very passionate topic, which is very passionate to me as well, because I think in my entire media career too, I've kind of, very consciously driven, the concept, and I know that you are very passionate about it as well, because I've seen your work, I've been following your work, I've been reading what you've been doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have Dato David. Uh, in a very passionate discussion on the role of youth and industry in nation building. And I think it is required, so much required to kind of to bring it into the front line, to involve the youth to discuss it. And it's a topic which is very, passionate and global, even to India as well. So let's just get straight into that, David Dato. So tell me, before we jump into it, can you hear me clearly? Can you hear me
Yes, I
clearly?
can. Yes, I
Great.
can.
So before we jump straight into, the role of youth and industry in nation building, how are you managing to chill and stay healthy during lockdown?
Well, before you can take care of others, you have to take care of yourself. But it's actually a lot easier when you're in lockdown because you can actually eat the proper meals. You can eat well. You can eat organic. Maybe you can quite often when you're working, you're just on the go. You pick whatever you get, and you don't really often have the chance to eat properly and eat good food quality. So
Correct.
in that sense, yeah, being in lockdown has its blessing. Yeah.
So you've been catching up on all the missed lunches, the missed dinners, which I think
Yes.
your regular life would kind of, ensure, because I understand, and I come from somewhat, the same chaotic background, where lunches become almost twilight dinner, and you sometimes just even forget. So good for you, because I think what you're doing now requires you to be in tip-top shape and in tip-top health too. So good on that. So great. Let's just jump straight into that, into what we want to kind of really discuss. What do you think, Dato David, is the current mood of Malaysia and why?
I think Malaysians generally currently there's a big air of uncertainty. Firstly, you have the pandemic, and
Hmm.
people are locked down, people at home, children are they haven't gone to school like many places, and so people are concerned. They're unclear about how long this is going to take. When is this going to end? Uh, they also, in a way, worried, or because of course, when the numbers are high, and on a daily basis, you hear of someone or someone you care about who is suffering or has died, then you kind of there's a kind of trauma that
Mm,
takes
mm,
place. And then also, at home, you have this whole unit, and suddenly everybody's together all the time. So
correct.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of pressures. So I think there's a certain amount of COVID fatigue, if you want to call it
Mm,
that people are
mm.
feeling right now.
Yes, correct. I also was kind of, doing a little bit of research, and I kind of found out to my shock that even cases of mental health and
Yes.
depression and suicide also kind of jumped, in Malaysia as well. Because I have, a close circle of life coaches who also kind of shared that data with me, and I was, I was very concerned, that the pandemic seems to have, kind of taken battered a certain section of humanity, with really core issues of mental health as well. So I understand. Yes, I understand that. So personally, what would you do to kind of keep yourself in that state of balance? Because you're a busy gentleman. You have so many things that you're doing and sitting on. How would you keep yourself into mental balance? What is your Zen? What is your Zen frame of mind, Dato David?
Um, I don't think I have a Zen frame of mind. I'm a very driven person, so when my mind is set on something and I drive and I think and I plan. So I haven't really stopped to think about those things. You know what I mean? So like for me, it's like okay, we need to feed 5,000 meals. We need to feed 5,000 people today. How are
Yes,
we going
yes,
to do this? Where we going oh, we've got an issue for industry. We need to clarify certain things, or we want certain SOPs and things like that to be done properly or whatever. And so I'm constantly on the go, and I don't have the luxury of sitting down and thinking about
mm,
it. But what I do think about, and I pay a lot of attention to, and I would like to share this is yeah, I do spend a lot of time talking to my children. I
yes,
mean, I have a
yes,
son, both teenagers, but I
correct.
spend a lot of time talking to them, how they doing, how they handling, how's school online, how's it without their friends? Would you like to do
Mm,
something together? What are you doing? Getting them to try different things. My daughter started painting, so that they see if they're okay. I think that's been something that I've been really working on.
mm.
Talking to them, just seeing that they're okay. And I think by and large, uh, they're fine.
Yeah, because I think self-care begins with self first, correct? And then
Right.
that self-care you kind of take it out into the public spaces that you are part of, which is so awesome to know that very uh, great. So getting into having said the fact that that you're spending more time with your own teenagers at home, making sure that that they're safe, that you're talking to them, ensuring that they are in a good space, because you need to be in a good space yourself to be able to extend that same care to the youth that you work with in your public life. So what do you think, in the state of affairs that the country is, what do you think and what is your opinion on the role of youth in nation building? And do you see Malaysian youth playing a significant role in this pandemic? I think it's very important because you're right there. You're right in the middle of the action.
Yes. No, certainly the future is in youth, Um, I think Malaysia is quite a young country. Yeah, I mean, they got independence in 1957, and it took a while to build the nation up, and I think post-colonial nations, they inherited not everything that was good, in terms of strife and issues. I think it's very similar. Uh,
Similar to India as well.
but yeah, in India and other post-colonial countries.
Correct.
And so most societies, especially Malaysia, you know, after independence, they've had this baggage
Mm,
between issues between races and things like that. Entitlement, it's all you can trace it back to roots in colonialism, the divide and rule, if you want to call it that.
yes.
And while you kind of paper over cracks uh, for a while just to get by, I
Mm,
think what happened with the pandemic is the pandemic just opened it up, and made people really see uh, what's really wrong with society, what's really wrong with institutions, um, and also to put away some of the stigma that people had before, to see what different races, because people got to come together during the
yes.
spirit, and then
Correct.
suddenly all the stigmas of old may not necessarily be as relevant anymore because people need to help each other. There's nobody else to help you when who's going to send you to the hospital, who's going to put a meal in front of you, and that sort of thing. Right? So that's why I pay a lot of attention to those things. So in that regard, we're at a very unique crossroad in Malaysia, in that it's an opportunity. Right? So
Mm,
as Sun Tzu chaos as opportunity. And the question is, are they are people going to stand up? Are they going to step forward? You know, and that's where youth plays a very important part, because a lot of us, we've inherited this mindset. You know what I mean? We've lived in this.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
You know,
familiar with that. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
so
Correct.
whether we like it or not, we all have our different prejudices, and we can deny it, but in reality we do, because that's the way we've been raised. But for this new generation now, they're seeing the world differently. And that's what's happening in Malaysia as well.
Which is a huge population. I think it's over 60% in the 18 and above
Yes.
category of youth, right? Yes, that's what I
So,
read.
and that's a very significant group. It's a very significant group, and why it's related to industries, because that's also the 20 to 40s really are the group that is the biggest group in the workforce.
That's
Okay,
right.
so they're also going to, or they're already shouldering a very, very big responsibility, not just in terms of how they're going to, in a dynamic way, in terms of how government is set up, but also how industry and economy is going to evolve over the next few years, because that's that in that sector as well. So definitely they're going to play a very important role. And but what's very interesting in Malaysia is that they seem to be defining it themselves. So and I think a big factor in that is the fact that you have social media today. So I mean, that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing as well, in terms of fake news and what have you. But I think the fact that they're so versatile in using different medias, not just they've got, I don't know, Telegram, TikTok, that. I have Facebook, and my 16-year-old says that's for old people.
It's for old people. In fact, even data says that it's for old people.
Yeah. So what's happening is this lockdown is also getting these kids more connected. I know my daughter was doing this. She was into youth leading change and all of that, and during the lockdown, because of Zoom and all of this, she was able to reach out to many kids around the world. They used to have their own forums and things like that, and that was in a way possible because of this pandemic. And so, in that sense, these young people today, they're more connected with each other. They're more open to ideas, and not bogged down by the narrative of what you read in the newspaper or the mainstream media, because we know how that's slanted sometimes.
Yes, yeah. Well, I call it occupational hazards, because that becomes part of what our profession. Sometimes you have to live and learn, and just kind of learn to sieve the news, which is so strange, because I myself, being from the industry, from the media industry, the old school is the old school, which is the old school that made sure that the professional ethics of journalism was like the bedrock for us, right? To speak the truth and always the truth, because media is the fourth estate after the legislature and judiciary. And I unfortunately also kind of see that there has been a kind of a whole change in that fourth estate today, right? With with so many factors that have got into it. So yeah, you're right, that news has to be now also kind of be you can't just take it as the blind truth, like
Kids are probably more adept at it than us. My daughter says, did you fact check this, Dad?
Yes.
And what, actually Facebook censors what they're lots smarter than we give them credit for. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yes, I do, because I went to the teenager phase too, so I know exactly what you're saying. Great. So tell me, with so much of your own experience in the field, you've been a man of law for the past 30 years now, and so actively involved as a public figure, in kind of the entire political landscape, in the industry landscape. So I know exactly that there's so much of a plethora of experiences that that you bring to the table and to the roles that you sit on. What are your recommendations for local industry to kind of flip this, right? To flip this this mentality, sentimentality as well. That because I am part of the industry, by virtue of what I do, and I see that. What are your recommendations, Dato David? For the local industry to kind of take a step back, take stock, and flip this, flip back into action.
I think the first thing we have to understand globally is that the idea of what we used to know as capitalism has changed. It's not the same. The whole idea of trickle down economics, and you're going to have these $1 trillion companies, and the goal is to earn as much as possible and X amount for your shareholders. I think that's gone.
Yes.
So what's new? What is the opportunity that we have? I think like Project Satu Hati, which is something, it's a pay forward involving the food and beverage industry. It's a way in which we can save jobs as well as, do some good. And I think more and more industries need to look at where they are, how they need to look at sharing profits, and income inequality is a big thing that needs to be addressed.
Correct.
And I think we need to realize that, look, all this trickle down economics maybe isn't, because we've seen a wider range of people that have and have nots. And then when you have a epidemic like this, then
yes.
So what do? You got no workers, nobody's out there buying your goods. What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yes.
And so it's a good chance to reset. The idea of capitalism, in the neoliberalistic capitalism that came out of America in the 80s, Keynesian theories that kind of changed, was all about, don't regulate the market, let all these big companies earn a lot of money and then it'll come down, right? So anything that went against that was demonized, like, for example, unions. Okay? So, like, India had a very big movement, the UK, even Malaysia, but that's been demonized and almost wiped out in Malaysia, right? In the old days, companies that made a lot of money, and if there was income inequality, the unions would fight for a fair wage. That was quite a good. But when you take that up, what happens is you see, since the 80s, wages haven't gone up as much as inflation and things like that, right? So when you inflation, you find income inequality, people needing 2 jobs, still can't afford to buy that house and things like that. So we have a good chance to actually reset, and I think that's what industry should look at doing to sustain itself. Because you know what, today, tomorrow, once we get out of this, if people have no money, your business is dead.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah, correct. Because when I was doing my own research to the Industries United that you are co-founder of, 3.3 million businesses in Malaysia is a big number. It's a big number.
That's just us. There are a lot of other people that don't come under our umbrella, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, correct. So how do they find representation, Dato David? I mean, if they don't come under the umbrella, who does the representation for them? Do they represent themselves?
So generally, if there are a lot of businesses don't necessarily subscribe to a particular association, just strength in numbers, if you want to call it that. And then you have different industries that join together and then they form an association. But then that's not good enough. It's still, so many businesses, so many industries, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So what we've done is, and as well before, there were always competing interests, right? So if I was a landlord, I wouldn't go into an association with a tenant because we'd always be, you get what I mean? But now, because times are so bad, everybody's together and everybody learn to speak with one voice and try to see each other's point of view, which has been an incredible experience for me in Industries Unite, because I've been able to see people actually come together. People at opposite ends of the commercial pie actually coming together. So you have landlords working with tenants to come to a solution. You have the more capitalistic, bigger SMEs working with the micro entrepreneurs to support each other to get something for everybody. And everybody's now working together, which I think is amazing. Yeah.
Which is phenomenal, right? Because I think everyone has got together to fight a common enemy or common.
common enemy, but more of a common goal. I think it got
That's
about
right.
enemies, right? Enemies today are friends tomorrow. But
Yes, yes,
the
you're
idea is
right.
that the common goal right now is survival.
Spoke,
So yeah, so it's a common goal of survival.
spoken like a true lawman. I like the entire the switch that you did from enemy to perfect. Great. Okay, so we have some feedback coming in, Dato David. Let's share that. We have a common friend, Frankie Murray from Ireland.
Hi,
He
Frankie.
says,
Hi.
yeah, he says, good morning from Ireland. Hi, Frankie. Good to see you online. Good to see you online. Great. We have, and these are all, entrepreneurs who have logged into. There's also
Yeah,
Lena who's
that's
saying,
the Republican Frankie.
yes. Thank you, Frankie. So there's Lena saying hi. There is a Song. Song represents a huge F&B group that I'm also part of, in Malaysia. He is also has popped in to say hi. These are all local entrepreneurs that I've been liaisoning with, in Malaysia. So hi, Song. Thank you for joining us. We have friends from Labuan too. I made a lot of friends in Labuan, so they've all become part of all my shows and chats now.
The letter foodie.
Yes, exactly. So this Christine Chen, who's a home baker, and home baker in the evening, accountant during the day. So hi, Christine. Thank you for joining in. We have this excellent gentleman who I met last year in Sabah, who runs an adventure tour agency in India, in Delhi. Very senior. He's a polo man who plays polo, who has horses, who has this huge big eco ashram in Rishikesh. So he's logged in from Delhi too. Inderji, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. There is also, I think, another fellow a lawyer who's also a friend, Nits. I'm sure, I don't know if you know her. She's logged in too. She says, hello. Nice to see both of you. Such an insightful sharing. Yeah, see, because, I realized that everybody wants now to be seen. And as a media professional, I understand that completely. People want to be seen. People want to be heard. People want to matter, Dato David, because I think the pandemic has stirred and brought these emotions to the forefront. And I think I look at it as a blessing in disguise too, where everybody is now seen for who they are. They speak up for what they feel. I think mental health also has got suddenly such a big, huge global voice, including we've been seeing that sportsmen have been taking a very vocal stand, right? And saying that that mental health matters. So if I don't feel good about something, I'm going to drop out, whether it's the Olympic game or whether it's Wimbledon. And I think that is so interesting to kind of see that that kind of voice that is suddenly now happening on a global landscape. So I understand, so following what you do off the public radar as well, you have got a collection of fast cars. And I've been, and I sometimes look at all the classics and I say, oh my God, this is so good. It looks to me like you've been collecting it over a period of time because you have some really good classic wheels. So how, I understand that the lockdown has now also made, ensure that you're probably also kind of stuck in and can't take to the roads. How do you de-stress?
Okay, well, yeah, I'm a boy. Turned into a man. Okay,
Yes, that is true.
as you can see, I'm always here. Cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is yeah. So
correct.
uh,
And
so so yeah,
it's
I'm
quite a collection. It's quite a
yeah
collection you have.
yeah. So toys. But no. So as I grew up, I was fortunate enough to pick out some of the favorite ones that started out like this and eventually ended up, the real ones.
Right.
Uh, but that was my passion. It was a hobby of mine for a very long time. I used to do rallies, track days, drift. Uh, that was a very good way for me to just be in a zone and just cut the world out.
Yeah.
And, when I was younger as well. You know, now I have to sit down and my back goes creak, creak, creak.
Age is just a number. Age is just a number, Dato David. Age is
No,
just a number.
but you know, there's a story to every car. So unless you're a car enthusiast and unless you're a car collector, I think you
Yes.
understand that you know, anything that's precise or precision, a machine that it's like a work of art. You
Yes.
know, sometimes when I can't sleep, I sit outside and look at just the lines, beautiful. A lot of classic cars, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a secret to do that too. When I need to de-stress, I would go and sit with my shoe collection, like literally sit with my shoe collection. Yeah, and and pick up grab a piece of cloth, fabric, whatever, and just clean them up. Like it was like an obsession for me, and I could do that like till maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. Like seriously,
Yeah,
sit with all
therapeutic.
sit with all my shoes and say, oh my God, half of my money has been spent here, correct? So I can see my money in all
But
these
the,
different.
the thing is, people who know classic cars, they understand that it's actually the second best performing asset class in the last 15 years. You know,
Mm,
it's
mm.
well, but it's also, so imagine it's a good investment. It's one of the top best investments, but you also get to play with it, drive, and look like a superstar, take a lot of pictures. You know,
Yes, I know, and I've been seeing that. Just before the lockdown happened, saw a lot of your photographs. Showing up all your Lambos, and I'm a huge Lambo fan. I was like, oh my God, when do I get a drive to? So that's a little cue for you.
when you come back to
When I come back to Kuala Lumpur, yes, correct. Great. So, which takes us back again. So on a global perspective, because right now, borders, virtual borders have all melted down. Zoom, StreamYard, and all different types of technology has connected us with everyone everywhere. So there are no borders anymore. On a global perspective, where would you position Malaysia in COVID management?
I think sadly, I think we're not where we could be. Let me put it that way.
Hmm.
To be fair, um, we're not where we could be. We're not where we should be. Okay, and I think one of the main reasons for that is we're in a little bit of a political pickle at
Mm,
the moment.
mm. Yes,
And,
yes. I've been
with
reading. I read a lot, so.
uh, the politics of it, I think that's where we are. Sadly, wrong time for us to be in that situation. I'm apolitical, so I mean, as an observer, sort of
Mm,
independent observer, I think that's been one of the reasons why we've not been able to, sort of have a concerted move forward. We could have done a lot better. We've done okay, but I think we could have done better. And
do
I
you,
think, sorry,
sorry.
and then in that sense, uh, to be honest with you, it's about leadership. Okay,
Mm,
and I'm saying that as a criticism. I'm saying that because that's how I lead. I mean, you need to, like, people ask me, David, you're doing all these things. And I say, look, actually, I'm not doing all these things, right? My
mm.
dad was really good at showing me something. He told me, he says, you lead by empowering others. You
Yes,
got
yeah, yeah,
to get people, and then you push them up, and you say, hey, you know what? You're great. Can you do this? Let's do this together. And you know what? I trust you. I'm going to let you do this. Can we work together? And what
correct.
happens then is when you empower people and you give them that, and you trust, and you give them the support, and you give them the strength, is you find a very strong organization, a real will that people
Mm,
want something,
mm,
that
mm.
they feel they're part of a movement, they feel that burden and not just fill a position, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think to a large extent that's really, in that sense, has been what's missing, leadership, whether it's in terms of politics or in terms of the economy or whatever, there's really no clear someone actually taking it up, saying, I'm going to take over this thing and I'm going to get the best people in town and we're going to sit down and don't you worry, we will sort this out. You know,
and yes, correct, correct. Do you think that it has also will also delay the flip back of the industry to get back to its original, kind of, heyday?
I think if we shift, and I've been saying that since January, that we need a 3-year plan, and I've worked it out. I've written to the Prime Minister as well, and some of the suggestions that I've given have sort of has been implemented. But we the first thing we need to do is we need to stabilize the patient before we can even think of getting out of this. Because I think the economy is still in an ICU situation, and we need to get to a stage where everybody understands in a very clear way. Okay, look, we're going to stabilize this position, and we're going to have to make some serious decisions. We may have to make a few amputations, maybe, or whatever, but it's going to have to be done. And then we need to have a very lean and mean system where we get everybody out and about. And then and then once we stabilize the situation, we're able to get these. You see, because businesses that have closed for 16 months, even if they look open tomorrow, they're not going to be able to open tomorrow. They've exhausted the revenues. You need to get funding. You need to reinvest in a business that's not there anymore because you're paying off all that debt anyway for 16 months, right? So you've got to make sure that we have the facility to be able to stay open. So we need to stabilize. Okay. And then once we do that, the question is, how competitive are you going to be in a market changed? The market has changed.
The market has changed, absolutely, yes. And I think that is across the globe.
So how have we prepared ourselves for it? I mean, you can't just think, okay, you know what, I'm going to open the business tomorrow. I'm going to let everybody. No, it's not. The market has changed, and the world has changed too.
The world has changed. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Then we go into a recovery plan. From stabilization is how do we recover? We have to anticipate all of these things, and before you can even thrive, for certain feel we're going to have a worldwide recession. That's the verge of that when because there's not a lot of money out there. You can't just because countries all around the world kind of have very closed economies. So no, it's likely that that's going to have some impact. Maybe a recession, a depression, of some sort of stagnation, at least at very dangerous stagnation. I don't know. But certainly after coming out of COVID, we're going to face that battle. So are we resilient? So we need to get, people resilient. Now we know we can do that because we've already gone through the financial crisis, the Asian financial crisis before that.
Correct.
So we've through those crises and we've learned from that, right? I think we did really well in the Asian financial crisis to come out of it quickly, and we did really well. I think Malaysia did really well there. So we need to start looking at those kind of things and making sure that we are able to be resilient enough to go through that over the next 2 or 3 years, I think. And then from there, then we got to listen and then we have to adapt to the world that we're in. And how do we do that? It's digitalization, whether you like it or not.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
it's going to be very different from the world in 3 years from now. I mean, look, you and I are talking over StreamYard. I didn't even hear about it until the MCO, to be honest with you, right?
Yes.
So in the future, we have to start looking at digitalization. Okay. Now, when I say everybody bans digitalization about, actually, it's nothing to do with digitalization as far as I'm concerned, anyway. It's about efficiency. All right. So if you've got digital trading that's doing really well, it's because it's more efficient than the traditional swift way, bank transfers and all those things, and it's cheaper. You know what I mean? So it's not the fact online. It's just more efficient, it's faster, it's cheaper. That's it.
Right. Correct.
And
you're right. You're absolutely right.
So in the future, you're not going to do a wire transfer, wire swift from London to whatever, an LC here and an LC there, because they're much different. So we're going to evolve, get ready to evolve into that scenario, right? Don't stop with China is already digitalized, but then in terms of how they do it, people don't carry cash. But then there are flaws that when you have a flood, then electricity and lights were down. Nobody could buy anything. They would you know me.
Yes, absolutely.
Something that we're planning, but we have to adapt and we have to change. We have to change our supply systems, our delivery systems, make use of technology, invest in technology. The Malaysian government did okay. I think they've got a But it's no use giving labels to what we're going to do or whatever unless you really have an idea and a plan that's going to be different from everybody else, and you're going to come out and you're going to be able to say to all our businesses in Malaysia, look, now you go out and you compete. We've fed you, we've made you strong, we've made you
Yes.
ready, you're resilient. I'll go out and make it happen.
Correct, because I think COVID has also forced everyone to reinvent themselves. Correct,
Yes.
because flexibility ensures that you have longevity, that you can ride it out. With resilience and persistence and sabar, the magic word I learned in Malaysia, sabar. Correct, and I think that's the only way to do is to reinvent. And because you're the man on the ground, most time most time of your 24-hour life circle in a daytime, I'm sure you have your pulse, your finger on the pulse, right, of what is really happening, the ground realities, the response of the youth. Is it quick enough to this? Is it quick? Is the industry responding quick enough to whatever, as the changes and shifts are having? So yes, reinvention, it's reinvent, be flexible, or you're wiped out. I think that's a lesson. That's a lesson even.
That's been the way we became who we are from amoebas. It was evolution,
Correct.
survival.
So it is not just survival of the fittest. I think it's also survival instincts and being flexible as well. Now
Yes.
today, correct, which is like the need of the hour today. So so very interesting. So as I said, being in the field, the entire legal landscape, which is so decorated because you've been abroad, so you have an international perspective from ground, and then you bring that same perspective to Malaysia, and then put it all together into the kind of work that you do. As a man of law, do you see more young lawyers making the bar in Malaysia? Do you think there's a passion to kind of to, as I said, represent the community, represent the people, represent the innocent?
I'm sorry. They, I'm
That's
sorry. When you said that, I just thought of the phrase. The road to hell is paved with good intention. You know what I mean?
like how I mentioned to you too. Madonna said that in a song as
Sorry,
well.
I don't take the conversation. No, I think
Yeah.
no, I think we have some very good people, but um, I I think sometimes it's a generalization. But
Mm,
I can perhaps only share my my personal experience. Right, 30 years or thereabouts, almost.
yes.
I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid.
You,
That
you wanted to be.
yeah. My parents said no lawyer because Indian parents. You got to be a doctor. Doctors are good.
Yes.
Lawyers are
Yes.
bad. Lawyers
Yes.
are thieves, crooks, whatever. No,
Oh,
right?
Dr.
And
David, my father told me the same thing when I told him after my post graduation. I'm a postgraduate in economics, and I was like, "What do I do now?" I said, "I would like to, get into the legal field." So my father said, "Yeah, I'm sure, but you're a bad liar." And
bye. But anyway, so after I
right?
finished my parents shipped me to India, by the way, to Madurai, Madurai in
Yes,
India
yes.
to I don't know, university or whatever to go into medicine. I escaped. Relatives there escaped. I came back to Malaysia, and then of course,
Oh,
oh, you're a failure, and but that
mm,
was not
mm.
because I was very passionate, and I never thought about law in the way, and I still believe it's an honorable profession, you know. I
Yes,
mean, as
yeah.
a barrister, I would say it's probably it's a very honorable profession, and it's if you look at the history of lawyering, even the Middle Temple, they evolved from knights of
Mm,
the
mm,
knights who had the exclusive right to see the king, which is today in the form of an exclusive right to appear before court,
mm,
right? We see
mm.
the king in a way, right, to dispense justice. So, historically, it's always been associated with honor. Okay, but when you have fine, people will. I've heard all the lawyer jokes from not just now, from Shakespearean times, by the way, theater.
Mm, mm.
So that's there. But I think at the end of the day, it's really about why you want to do something, and it doesn't really matter whether you're a lawyer or whatever. It's are you passionate about it?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct. Correct.
I haven't lost that passion, and while that passion is there, I've learned something over 30 years. I wasn't very rich when in fact, I was poor. So when I read law in England, I worked as a waiter at Victoria train station because we used to get free transport if you worked at the train stations in the days on the tubes. And so for me, I thought, getting rich would make me happy. Make it would change everything. Okay,
Yes.
for me. But along the way, I've realized happiness isn't a constant. You can't be all the time. It doesn't matter who you are. You can't maintain that level of happiness no matter how many odds you have or whatever. Just look around.
True. True that.
And what I've learned is what's constant is fulfillment. So if you're passionate about something and you feel you're doing something, you're making a small difference in the world today, or the small
Yes.
what you're doing, you're passionate about it. That fulfillment is lasting. Okay?
Yes. Correct.
And I realized that looking back at my dad, who was a teacher, he taught his whole life, and and I saw how fulfilled he was in what he did, and how he got a lot of pride out of educating some of them who became statesmen today.
Okay. Okay.
You see, so for me, I think at the end of the day, if you talk about young people, then I think they should look at doing something that, not just because somebody's telling them to do it or just because there's going to be money in it because it's not going to make you happy. Do something that make you fulfilled. And if you have that, you'll do really well. Be passionate about it, of course. Yeah.
Be passionate about it. Yeah. I like this line, I'm a huge fan of Oprah Winfrey, where she says, how do you find your true purpose and your true calling is when, is when the energies of the personality manifests itself to serve the energies of the soul. And I thought that was so deep and so fantastic to actually explain how, when that you're responding to your inner calling is when you will be, your success also is driven for over a long period of time, because your authenticity is brought to light. The communities that you serve see the passion that you bring, to them. And therefore I think most of the youth today, because I work very closely even in India too. I've always liked speaking at schools and speaking at colleges, and tell them how do you find it, right? It's not found with a degree, right, Dato David? Because the
No,
pressure, yeah, the degree is by the way, it's a byproduct, but not really the yes. I mean,
no, you're
our
right.
parents.
I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, because because when I was telling this to my dad, but my father said, but you post graduated in economics, so you should become a lecturer. And I was like, hell no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do something, much more than just go to school or go to college and get stuck. Because I looked at it as as something like that. And he said, okay, then when you figure out what it is, come and tell me. And I wish there are more and more parents who listen, correct? When when their kids come to them and say, but I don't want to be a doctor, or I don't want to be an engineer. I think it's such an Indian thing, right? To bracket kids into a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and that is it, correct? And anything that you deviated from there was like, oh my God, have I done something wrong in bringing up this child? Some sort of parenting fault or something of that sort.
No, but,
Great.
I love this, that it's called heart to heart because you actually I get to talk about, I don't get to talk about things like this. People say, oh, the lawyer, nobody really.
Yeah.
I get to share a lot of these these bits of me that I feel is very important. And just to share something that you said just now, and my perspective is, I don't think people have heard it, is I'm 53 now, and I've got gray hair. But here, I'm a lot older. Okay, so I've learned. I've got to where I don't. Age is not a number. No, I didn't mean that in a negative sense. But what I meant was uh, the mistakes I made. I got to where I am a lot mainly because the mistakes that I do, but embracing mistakes are something very important. We must allow ourselves to try something and not, so if you're going to protect your child from everything in the world, it's not
Yes.
going to work. They got to learn to evolve. That's number one. And coming back to what you were saying about doctors, if you look at it, it's because people, as parents, we want our kids to be successful. We want to make sure they don't, they don't do something and then they can't survive, take care of their children and so on and so forth. But that's the problem. The problem lies with the word success, the label. I
Yes.
think it's the label. We define success very broadly, and success must mean doctor, lawyer, blah, blah, blah. Success must mean happily married to whatever.
Yes. Structures.
But
They're all structures. All structures and boxes.
in boxes, and usually involves you have have X amount in your account. That's why you need to, so that you. But it's related to money. Okay, but for me personally, and this is my personal opinion based on is that real success, or let's say uh, richness, or whatever you call it, is to have everything that money cannot buy. Everything that money can buy, there's always going to be somebody who has more than you. Never
Yes.
going to, you know what I mean? But real wealth or success is to have everything that money cannot buy.
Yes.
Okay?
So
So
true.
what is it that money cannot buy? True love.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
If you're lucky and you have someone that loves you, it may be your spouse or your partner or your children, that's something that money can buy. And if you have that, it's amazing. So cultivate that. Hold it like treasure, because that's valuable.
Yes.
You can't buy that. The other is, of course, true education. You can have degrees, but it doesn't make you any better or smarter, right? So true education is learning from your experiences, learning from people, learning from your environment. You can't buy that.
Yes.
And to do that, you have to humble yourself to say, look, am I open to somebody else's opinion? Am I open to learning? What can I learn out of the situation? What can I learn out of this criticism? What can I learn out of this? Because if not, then if you're just going to say, look, I'm the authority on this because that's when we lose. That's not education. You're learning, and it's a process that you learn. You keep doing until the day you die. You don't stop. There's nowhere. So true education is something that money can't buy.
Yes.
And if you have that, that's great. The third thing I think which is very useful is true respect, because that's what people look for, right? People who have a title, for example, Sir so and so, Lord so and so, Dato so and so. Okay,
Yes.
with respect,
Yes.
and, or you have a PhD, or you're a doctor. The labels are doctor, lawyer, and in reality, that's not true respect. That's respect for a title or whatever.
I
If you want true respect as a person, you can't buy it.
Yes.
True respect comes from how you treat people. How do you treat your helper at home? How do you treat that waiter that gave you something? How do you treat people? And so like I used to own restaurants and all of that. I used to call, and until today, the people who foreign workers use, because I was a foreign worker and I was a waiter before, so I know what it feels. So I used to call them Bai, right? Which means brother, and I would talk to them, find out what, just that they understand that they're not nobody. I always believe everybody's somebody, nobody's nobody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then you get respect. They don't respect me because of my title or whatever. They respect me because I respect them. When you have that, and you have that is something that money can't buy.
Yes.
Much in the world can buy. Like the respect my dad had. He didn't have a title, he didn't have a lot of money, but he had a lot of respect from the community and the people that he served.
Yes.
That was priceless. That's true respect. So if those are the things that we're searching for in terms of what we want to do and achievements, then we've got it wrong. It's the other way around. It's everything that you cannot buy. And finally, to make it all worthwhile, to make you feel like you're like the biggest billionaire and the richest guy on the planet, is be grateful.
Yes. That's a magic word.
to be grateful. And I think there's always a chance to be grateful. If you don't have slippers and you're so poor, think about the people that don't have feet, you know.
Yeah.
And while we're so passionate and so about our kids, you know, they don't get 6 A's, 7 A's, they don't, you know, we're so concerned about that. You know, what, stop and think, what happened to that child when he was born? What, the child was born perfect. There are many children that aren't. And all you want is for them to live a reasonable life. You're not worried about how many A's, you know, children with special things like that. So thankful, your perspective on everything changes. When you're grateful, your perspective of everything changes. What we don't realize is there's so many things that money can't buy that are so valuable that if we just paid attention to it, we would really feel like $1,000,000. And I'll end with the last one, which is time.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my, yes, absolutely.
We don't have time. You can't buy time.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with your time? And that's why you say, hey, you know what, I'm passionate about, I'm doing this. No, it's not that. It's really, you know what, if I have that extra bit of time and I can do something to help someone, you know, if I can pay something because of my position, or because I have voices that will carry, then I'll do it. I'm not going to waste time. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm not going to sit back. Well, I could have done that, and maybe I should have. No, I'm going to do it. And if it's a mistake, it's so weird. But that's what we need. So these 5 things, money
Yes.
comes.
Money can't buy. Oh my God. Yes.
We are the richest man in the world if you can appreciate that. That's how I feel. You know?
Wow. Passion, action, compassion. Dato David, I had a sense about you, you know, and I'm very instinctive, and I'm driven by intuition, and I'm so glad I was right. Thank you for being really so honest and so.
So I get a chance to actually. Everybody
Yes.
with me about politics and what have you, but
I know exactly, right, and that's what, you know, I
man,
few people talk to you, and I've seen this from whatever that I kind of, you know, was reading about you, that very few people actually want to get to the soul of a man or soul of a woman who they're talking to. You put aside all the titles, put aside all the public layers, right, and you peel the onion and get to the core. So that is exactly, you know, what I love
you know,
to
I
do with
don't live myself. Sorry, I don't live my life just for myself. You know, I have 2 children that I need to raise. You know, I need to give them values to aspire to be. You know what I mean? You
Yes.
want your daughter to marry a great guy, then you got to treat your daughter like she's a princess, and then she will find someone like that. If you want your son to have the right values, then you have to live by those values. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to get it right. Nobody's, you know, there's no manual. I'm still struggling with raising kids because no book, you know, but I always believe, like, because I learned a lot from my dad. And so certainly, my life is not, I don't do things just for me. You know, I have to be conscious that there's another generation, you know, as you say, nation building and all. What are we going to do?
Yeah, and you lead by example, right? Because I think that's the best form of learning. So I completely agree with you, you know, and I resonate with it because those are the value systems also that I've picked up from, you know, my dad. Simple man, lived completely by, you know, by the values that he put, and he was just there. He made his world, taught us as much as he could, and he said, "Okay, go out to the world and do what you have to do." You know, you guys are independent, and that's what we did. You know, as we have 4 siblings ourselves. We just went out into the world. You know, and life is your biggest teacher, Dato David. It just
Absolutely.
knocks you and teaches you. You just have to be an open, willing student till the day you die. So that is exactly, you know, my whole life has been too. This is really awesome. This is really awesome. I'm so glad you've been so so candid. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you. So we have another comment that's come to us from Bangladesh. As I said, you know, the fan following and friends and fans are all over the place. So Faisal is from Bangladesh, the passionate young gentleman. He says, "Hello, Honourable Dato David. Greetings from Bangladesh. Really, I appreciate your work." Oh, says, okay. So we have a fan that kind of, you know, watches your work, and trust me, I follow your work every single day. So I kind of look at it where you also kind of inspire me as well, because I'm always constantly looking at men to lead by example and lead by inspiring leadership, if you know what I'm saying, correct? And we've chatted on and off a little bit offline, which is, I think, is the need of the hour today, the need of the world to have inspiring leadership, to lead a generation of youth that are now stepping into responsible, being young adults, as 18 and above, young adults who will vote, who will make decisions, in the policies, in the politics, in society and in community. And therefore we need inspiring, young people also to kind of lead that by example. So great. This is really good. What's any kind of last advice that you want to share with local youth of Malaysia who will be watching this video in replay? And as I said, they comprise about 60% of the Malaysian vote bank, which is so crucial and critical. What's your advice to them?
Don't make the mistakes our generation made. And what I mean by that is our generation was raised with reading politics in the newspaper, having all our comments, but nobody would step forward, including myself. I mean, we don't. We make all these comments, we complain about this, we complain about that, but very few people step forward and do it. And that applies to me too. Okay, those are mistakes that I made, and it's too late. So,
no, I don't think it's too late.
In a way, it's too late to change that mindset for us. We're so entrenched by all these things, the prejudices, but you have a clean slate. You have it new. You define your future. So don't make the mistakes of the past. Embrace what you can. Be dynamic, and look at what kind of future you're going to build for yourselves and for the generations ahead. This is the generation that is going to fix the problems that our generation made, right? Global warming, racism. There's so many issues that plague the world today.
Yes.
That stem from our generation. And you have a unique opportunity to change that. The question is, are you going to step up? Are you going to speak up? And that's all I can say. I can't give any advice. I'm in no position to give advice, but I can say, if you believe, you will change the world.
You will change the world. Yes. Yeah. Change begins with us. Change begins with us. It's not the external out. We are the change makers. So like how Mahatma Gandhi also said, be the change you want to see in the world. It begins with you, right? Yeah. And I think it applies to young men and young women, which is a very strong, gender, population across the globe. Women have become very vocal. Women have in India too have become so very vocal. Who are stepping up to the plate, stepping up, making decisions for themselves, making decisions to kind of decide, to marry or not to marry. Making decisions to be economically independent, making decisions to get into active public life. So yeah, I think more strength and more power to them. And like you rightly said, learn from our mistakes and don't repeat them. If you must repeat that, okay, go ahead and do that, but correct them quickly. Because I think this generation, I believe, is a blessed generation, Dato David, because they have resources that we did not. Our generation did not. Our generation still went to a newspaper office and typed our stories. If you know what I'm saying. We had no Google. We had no Google to go and do research. We would sit hours in the library or hours with any government official that we went. We used to dig up for files, for news, for sources. That was our Google, on ground. So most times I see.
Yes, they didn't have all of that, but they also have different challenges today. In the old days, we had snail mail. You had somebody that you loved, you wrote a love letter, it'll take a week to reach and a week to come back. Today, instant yes. This is, well, you were online. You didn't my email. You get what I'm saying? It's a different world. They have different issues too. But certainly they have an opportunity. You're absolutely.
But I'm going to add to that, since you mentioned about, love letters. I think that's the reason why probably love was even more stronger and resilient.
I don't know about that. I am not going to get into that debate. You're not going to pay me into it.
For another day. For another day, because I'm dying to open up that conversation, really, where I want to speak to more and more men, correct, on this entire thing, what men want and what women want. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for such a lovely, I think over 60 minutes that we've spent together talking. Yeah, and and talking about
So when you said, "Would you like to come on?" I said yes.
Thank you, really, because I tell you, conversations like these need to be had. Conversations like these, I know from experience and from the feedback that I'm getting, is inspiring people. We don't even know about it. So when we are in yes. So when we are in unique positions, which I believe the universe puts us in, let us contribute. Let us contribute, with whatever our learnings have been. And you have so much that you've added today, such very passionately. I resonate with everything that you say, because it almost looks like a mirror, like seriously, like a mirror of where all I have been in my life, and you've just said the same thing. So thank you. I think the universe conspires. The universe conspires, to put things in. Yeah, the universe conspires to put things and people together. I am a strong believer in that. And on that note, thank you for your time. Thank you for opening up to me and opening up to everyone who will watch this video in replay, of sharing, such precious nuggets of wisdom as well. I'm going to wish you great power to everything that you do. I'm here to help and support wherever you feel, I can help and support you. Yeah, what else can I say? I'm just so happy that this happened.
Likewise,
so thank
you so much for the opportunity. If I can just the last thing, if I could say, I mean, because it's a heart-to-heart show, now we talk about business, is we need to look after or look out for people, people to us, people near to us, because I'm sure there's a very big level of stress. And one thing that we're not, while on one hand we're looking at the physical health through this thing, but there's this big mental health issue, and people are going through a very difficult situation.
Correct.
And it would be great if we could, use this technology to communicate with people. Just check, sort of like a buddy,
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Is everything okay? Sometimes all you need to do is just call somebody, just say hi, how are you doing? Cheer people, give people hope.
Yes, courageous conversations, Dato David. I think that's so required, so required today.
It doesn't cost anything. Put a smile on his face.
Right. Yeah, and I think time is just tick tock, right?
Yeah, because I think that's something that we must do. We must support each other and cheer people up. Not everybody has the same fortitude. We always think that, be brave. We tell our kids, be brave, be strong.
Correct.
Actually, not everybody has the same fortitude. I think we should be kinder. We should be more kind to each other. We should be more empathetic during times like this. And I hope that we can do that. We can find some place to do that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to wish you a lovely rest of the evening. I think I'm going to sit down and kind of, now introspect on everything that you've said, because it is so important. And I'm sure today you have inspired people. Whoever logged in, whoever will watch, you have inspired people with your wisdom. So thank you, Dato David. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great evening. And you bet, when I'm back in KL, we are going to meet up. We are going to do that drive. You are going to cook a meal.
Yes.
So the Stiletto foodie can also see, and figure out that side of.
Yeah, I like to cook. So yes, for sure, we're waiting for you to come to KL. But in the meantime, continue with a great job. Really proud of what you're doing. I think it's great during this time. I'm a big fan. I know a lot of my friends are big fans because
Oh my
you
God, thank you.
every day
Thank you.
sort of
Thank
say
you.
something. So keep up the good work. Wish you
Thank,
well.
thank you.
Keep it.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good night.
Good night.
Wow, this was really beautiful, and I'm getting goosebumps. I think this was a really lovely conversation. I'm sure Dato David has inspired all of us, and will inspire you and whoever watches this, the idea and the philosophy of giving back, sharing our blessings, being grateful, and putting love out there, because love comes back to you. Thank you to each one of you who people who come together to watch Heart to Heart every Sunday, and be online with me, and then share what I do. Your compliments and your feedback is so encouraging for me. I hope to be of service wherever that I can, and I hope to share my gifts where I can too. So thank you. Be well, be strong, help each other at home, help each other in your circles. Today is also Friendship Day, but I think friends need to be forever and every day of your life. So let's root for people who root for us. Have a great night. Peace out.